Hi, everyone. Welcome back to a podcast of the Center for Asian American Christianity. My name is David Chao, and it's my delight and pleasure to introduce a new guest for today's conversation. I'd love for you to introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, thanks a lot, David. It's a pleasure being on here today. My name is Akshay John. I am a aspiring South Asian hip hop artist. I work as a project manager in the day or during my days, and I also make music, produce beats, and hopefully try to spark conversations regarding the South Asian American experience.
I love it. This is a new kind of venture for the CAAC. We've had authors and artists in that capacity, literary artists, I suppose you could say. We're going to feature some visual artists in the future, but you're our first musical artist. And since we want to talk about music, faith, and your South Asian background, I thought we could play a track first and maybe use this track to jumpstart our conversation for this special podcast. This one is called Ebb and Flow. We're going to start it from the beginning, and I'm going to hit play here, and then we'll talk on the other side.
Yeah. Little bit of Christian, little bit of rap, little bit absurd, and a little bit of facts. I just pulled up getting geek, now I'm sauced up on the tracks. I done dropped all of my pride, cause the first shall be last. Who you know from the Middle East getting jiggy? A little Mexican, drink a little bit of fitty. I had to take time cutting all my toxic traits. Play this anthem for the critics who just love to hate. Ebb and flow, what you trying to say? Intervention, intercession, boy, I'm trying to pray. Ebb and flow, what you trying to say? You ain't listening, I'm a Christian, I don't play your game. Ebb and flow, what you trying to say? Intervention, intercession, boy, I'm trying to pray. Ebb and flow, what you trying to say? You ain't listening, I'm a Christian, I don't play your game.
So when you hear me play some of the opening lyrics to Ebb and Flow, what does that conjure up for you when you hear your own music?
It's incredible. It was kind of surreal to still hear that I've been able to create this. Um, um, yeah, it was insane. Like even just yesterday. So I'm actually getting ready to release a new one, and that's going to be coming out on May 23rd, I believe. But I was just demoing that in my car yesterday, and I bumped up the sound, the volume all the way up, and it was just incredible. The bass was bumping, and it was just like so hip hop, I believe. And I even had the windows down. It's super nice here in Princeton right now. So, people were just bumping their heads along with the music that I created, and that was such a surreal feeling. That's a feeling I get even now listening to the first song that I officially have created officially out in music stores. It brings back fond memories. That song was very much a fun song that I created. It was just more so of like, I'm here, I'm announcing myself. I'm a little bit of Christian, but it's also a little bit of rap. I'm a little absurd, and I also speak a little bit of facts. So it's a kind of like a bio at the start, kind of announcing myself in my first song, and yeah, it goes from there.
That's why I wanted to use this song to introduce you a little bit, and I think the bio piece is perfect. So, in the second paragraph, who you know from the Middle East getting jiggy, a little mix of Kendrick, a little bit of 50. So maybe just unpack some of your background for us, perhaps where you were born, and then how did you get interested in rap and hip hop and music in general?
Yeah. So I was born in the south of India in a state called Kerala. I was born in Trivandrum. In Malayalam, it's called Thiruvananthapuram. I was born there in 1999. And in 3 months' time, I was transported against my will to the Middle East by my parents. My dad actually got a job in the Middle East, as is very common with our people group called Malayalis. And I grew up in the Middle East, in the Gulf, as we proudly call it. And I was introduced to hip hop at a very early age because we had access to American TV. So we used to watch stuff like the Cartoon Network and Pogo. That's like more of a maybe an Indian Middle Eastern thing. But we also had like MTV, we had HBO, and so I used to like I grew up on the legends like 50 Cent, Eminem. I used to listen to like Biggie and these like legends. So and I always just, I think maybe drumming ran in my family. My uncle was a drummer. I'm a drummer. I used to play for my church. And so I always used to love beats. And, even coming from the southern part of India in Kerala, we are, I'm just realizing this now, very like beat inspired. We have something known as a Chandamelam, and it's like it's an insanely fast progression of like southern beats. So it starts slow and it usually tries to mark an occasion or a festival. And throughout the sort of performance, the beats swell up and it goes faster and faster to sort of this crescendo. And at the end is this like big reveal or something like that. So that's what the DNA was at the start, and then American trap and hip hop sort of like made that bloom. And so that was the journey, I would say, as it were, when I started.
In the first line, and as you mentioned, you're a little bit of Christian, and then the last line we closed on, you say, "Let me put in perspective, we all need Jesus in the end."
Hmm.
So clearly, you're a person of faith, of Christian faith.
Hmm.
Say more about your Christian background and why you chose to thread it into your musical projects and pursuits.
Yeah. So the first part of that question, my history with Christianity lies with my family. So I was born into a Christian family. We've been Christians for generations. Um, so my parents, they come from this denomination in my state of Kerala called Marthama. And when they came to the Middle East, realized that they were getting disenfranchised, and they were carrying a lot of feelings towards church and church hurt. And so this is the sort of ground they're coming to in Qatar. So they wanted to start afresh. And so my dad's cousin was an elder at the Brethren Church. And so my dad sort of was taken in by my uncle and was kind of shepherded by that family of elders and whatnot of the Brethren community. And that's the church I grew up in. So I grew up in a Malayali Brethren church. And our church in particular was just absolutely very strong in faith and scripture. So this is like even the Sunday school that I was born in, it was very much part of our ethos to be able to like memorize Bible verses and compete for prizes and articulate theological perspectives and wow the uncles and aunties. And so this was the sort of I guess the image or the perspective or the scenarios that I was brought up in. And so our faith was very much a constant reminder within the church and the family. Now, as it pertains to hip hop and my music, I I wanted to be part of my message, although I don't want it to be a central theme. And this is what I mean by that. Um, I would like to distinguish myself as an artist who is a Christian instead of a Christian artist for two reasons. I think number one, it kind of gets hard to work. Number two, I think I want to be able to talk more broadly about things that don't pertain to the Christian message. I want to be able to talk candidly about the Indian American experience, the immigrant experience, our obsession with success, or what success looks like or should look like. And ultimately, what I would like to then weave in is how I believe my faith and my idea of God has intersected or even penetrated this idea of success or giving up what success looks like conventionally in an Asian sense. So that's where faith plays a big part in my story.
Amazing. Wow. Very robust reflections. Um, in some of our prior conversations, we spoke about your writing poetry and even freestyling in the shower as a form of therapy. Can you just maybe unpack how music has been a spiritual resource, a kind of form of therapy for you even? Unpack what that means for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. As a broke college kid in Chicago, we didn't have money for therapy. And most of the time as an international student, my American friends and peers never really understood why I needed to make the grades to keep the scholarship, or why I had to get A's in all my computer science classes. And well, that the Indian guys kind of understood, but but they never understood the international experience, which is like you got to keep your grades, keep your scholarship to not get out of this because we can't afford to pay the American college fees and whatnot. And so, as anyone could probably assume and imagine, it was absolutely stressful being an international student, as international students have a lot to just fight up against. They have to like think about their future constantly. Am I going to get a job? At what point am I going to get kicked out? Will I ever get kicked out? These are the existential questions an international student at any point in their life probably thinks about if they want to stay in the US, that is. And I, like everybody else, wanted to. And I've always been creative and I needed a creative outlet. I've tried creating videos, and when I liked it, I tried pretty consistently, but I noticed it wasn't really hitting. The only thing that kept coming back to me was freestyling. And I used to freestyle as just a way to kind of, play around and goof around with my buddies in college. We used to like be at parties and everybody would get into these things called ciphers. And somebody would lay down a beat and we'd just kind of go off the mind, off the dome is what we'd say. And we would just try to come up with these impressive verses and make it rhyme and come up with these like rhythmic sort of like catchy catchphrases and punchlines and try to wow people. So that's what I took from the parties, and then I just come back home and try to do that over a beat again and again because I really wanted to be good. And so that kind of created this passion of freestyling. And then I started realizing, wow, I can freestyle about my day and how poorly it went. The fact that I kind of hate my computer science professor, the fact that I don't understand any of this, and the fact that I feel really like alone. I'm away from my family, I'm away from my friends. This all came out, and I feel like a sense of flow when I was talking about my pain, but it was also sounding good. And so that's how incredibly helpful music has been for me because it's healed and, to your point, been spiritual for me in that sense.
Oh wow. I can imagine. I too was once a broke college student, but I was not good at music. So the difference between you and me. Let me play the next track for us.
Uh, Hey, let the East Coast in it. From the Chi-Town in the East Coast winning. South side, North side, where you at, huh? Philly City, New Jersey, where you at, huh? Let the East Coast in it. From the Chi-Town in the East Coast winning. South side, North side, where you at, huh? Philly City, New Jersey, where you at, huh? And I've been doing this for days. So much on my mind, I be stuck up in a daze. Focused on my rhymes, but my ego finds a case to make me doubt myself and get me out of the race. Out of this world, cause I'm outer in space. Reminding myself that I wanted the taste. I'm seeing the future, direction is great. I'm out on the coast, still checking my face. I'm thinking of the friends that turned out to be phonies. Don't text me from the airport, do you even know me? Guess what? I hear everything you say about me. You say all that crap, but you PlayStation invite me? Jacob said I'm rich in spirit. I don't need a drop top. That's a confirmation, not worried about no wristwatch. I'm party at Vesuvio, sauce with pasta, mixed with some beef fry. I'm a Malu hustler. Every time you say his name, I turn into a lame. You saying he a big step, but what's his end game? I've been working on my piece 4 hours in a day. People call me underrated. Hip hop is the game. Evolving and change, the art or the fame. I say I want God, those words ain't the same. We feeling self-conscious, the cycle of shame. Faking humility, just a few life pride the same.
All right. So that track is titled Turnpike because in New Jersey we have lots of turnpikes. So I
Yes,
want to
indeed.
pick up both your biographical journey as well as your musical and theological and Indian American reflections. But let's begin with picking up the bio because you already referenced being a college student in Chicago. So just talk a little bit about the movement from growing up in the Middle East and the earlier sort of rap and hip hop influences there, and how it sounds like the music carried with you to the US. So maybe just talk about Chicago, then Jersey, how you
Mm.
ended up on the East Coast.
Yeah, so that's actually a really interesting point because that you bring up because the music did carry over, and I try to even identify that in the beat, which is a very East Coast beat. And so there's a signature sound for every city. Like Chicago is drill, East Coast is more, depending on what era has different sounds. So I try to make note of that. So it's very interesting that you even saw that as well. From Chicago in 20, I was up there until 2023. So I did my college there at UIC, and then I worked, in 2023, a couple jobs. I worked as a sales development associate for my first job, and then my second job, I worked as a consultant for a startup in San Diego. And I loved both jobs. The second job was a lot more tougher, and yeah, it was a great time. And then I, by God's grace, got married to my beautiful bride, Shreya, and we moved to New Jersey, Princeton, New Jersey, in the summer, actually end of summer in August, because Shreya was pursuing her seminary degree. And I won't get into too much specifics, but because of some stuff that went on at work, it made no sense for me to stay there. And so I, packed up essentially my apartment and all the memories I had of Chicago, and I moved out with Shreya to Princeton in 2023. And so that was the physical change, but the mental and the musical change also carried with me as well. And I think it took a lot of time, but yeah, I mean, I wanted to sort of remark on that with the song Turnpike because it's very much a anthem. And I made that essentially as sort of like a celebration anthem for my friends and support system people here in New Jersey because it's very much a New Jersey, unapologetic New Jersey and Philadelphia song. These are the places that me and my wife frequent the most throughout our months and weeks. And so we just wanted a song that, our friends could be like, hey, Philly City, New Jersey, where we at? And that's kind of what started as the seed, and then it kept flushing it out. And yeah, we have Turnpike.
I'm fascinated by how your faith is wound up in places that you don't throw away the place. It makes me think of in the Old Testament when Israel crossed the river, they set up stones to commemorate that river crossing,
Mm,
that God was with them at that point.
yeah.
And it seems like these songs are stones
Wow.
for you to recollect your journey
Hmm.
with God. Like God is accompanying you on your journey
Yeah.
and being a person of faith, you're weaving your faith into your music to kind of
Hmm.
create these spiritual stones.
Hmm. Yeah, that's so good. I actually never thought about it like that, but that's such uh yeah, it's an astute observation because when I think about it, when I listen to my old tracks, David, I get transported back. Like my first song I ever recorded was on my iPhone, and the name of the song is Netflix, and it's a really catchy song. I might be biased, but I think it sounds really catchy. And I know the circumstances exactly for why I was doing it. I had bought a Blue Yeti mic. It's one of those USB mics that when you're first starting out your music production, you only have like what $50. So I got that connected into my Mac, and I just recorded this, and it was basically about um, how people are kind of essentially clones of each other, and that's because I was thinking how everybody at the time around me was just saying and doing all the things that they needed to do, like they were pre-programmed. We call them NPCs in video games, non-playable characters. I used to think that people around me were like kind of acting like NPCs, doing and saying whatever they needed to do to kind of get along in the rat race of life. And so I made that song Netflix and it transported me back. And that sort of that comment that you made, it commemorates and it's sort of like a stone of in my timeline that reminds me where I was. Would I make that song today? I probably would, but I changed the lyrics dramatically. But that's part of the journey, right? And I think the songs kind of are a time capsule that point me back.
Not all of our listeners would be familiar with NPCs. So
Yeah.
are you in your mid-20s, would you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm probably double your age then. Um, so NPCs are non-playable what?
Characters,
Non-playable
non-playable characters.
characters.
Hmm.
All
Yeah.
right, we learned something, a new term, NPCs. When I was looking at the cover art on the YouTube for Ebb and Flow, it was really this, it looked like from Michelangelo,
Mm,
God's hand touching perhaps Adam's hand, but this time it was a hand with stacks of money touching a human creature's hand,
hmm,
getting at issues related to capitalism,
hmm,
economy,
hmm,
money, and success. And so you started sharing with us you're entering the job market after
hmm,
college and trying out different jobs. And it's clear that you're weaving into your lyrics your own kind of personal journey, your work journey, your faith journey, and you have a lot of questions. It sounds like you're using rap and music to generate your soul's questions. Maybe this is a good place to play the next track. So let me cue that up.
With the message, Indians make money with no mansions. So I came here with a fresh fade, asking God, well, what the check say? I'm trying to make money when the sun shine. Keep God first, that's a punchline. Wanted a nice house and a light girl who reminds me I'm nodding with the right girls. I'm trying to make my family and I'm happy. Get a nice cushy job and a nice tea. Trying to do a little bit of showing off, not too much though, cause I'm holy, y'all. I'm trying to get a few followers on the IG, trying to make money part-time, working IT, hop on the latest trends when I'm feeling lively. Trying to get a cool, humble man, that's all I need. My American dream mixed with ambitions of success. I feel like flexing is just as important as the rest. I feel like Americans don't really want to rest. Add a little bit of Indian, I'm bound to be a mess. Not trying to be offensive, I get way too defensive. I want God's humility, but I feel like my taste expensive. I admit that God is good, but will that pay for rent, bro? I admit that God is great, but how about that bands, though?
I feel like in this song, Enough, your questions become sharper. There's a kind of super honest self-critique or probing around issues of success. How about that Mercedes Benz, though?
hmm.
Ambitions of success with the American dream, a cool, humble million. Tell me about your life stage. You're a college student. You did the right thing by getting some kind of computer or comp sci or engineering technical background. You gave a shot at those kinds of corporate jobs,
Hmm.
but something's not quite sitting right.
Hmm.
And this is not just you. Indians make money with no mentions. It's like you're making a broader commentary about you and many of your South Asian peers who may
Hmm.
have similar backgrounds and stories and orientation. So unpack your life context and the lyrics of the song.
Yeah, absolutely. Would be glad to. So, yeah, I think you quite like quite rightly put it. I followed the sort of blueprint, as it were, for an Indian or an Asian, I think, in general, which is what, like, be an engineer, a doctor, or a lawyer, or something else that's pretty prominent within our subcultures. And I chose to be a computer science software engineer. At least that's what I thought, and I told myself. Interestingly enough, I actually never felt the pressure from my dad or my mom. It was, I think, more so self-imposed, and also just seeing my friends and I'll be honest, the money. And I think that really helped shape my sort of going into computer science. Like you mentioned, I gave it a shot. I did it. And it wasn't really for me because it was just absolutely uh, it was soul crushing if I'm quite honest with you. And I think yeah, I think that's what I kind of even mentioned in the song. Now, I think one thing I want to make clear when I wrote the lyrics, Prime with the message, Indians make money with no mentions. That's more of a commentary on what I believe is just like this idea of you don't hear many success stories in contemporary slash pop culture of like just the Indian. It's more so of like the Asian or an Indian is like the smart guy. He can do your taxes. He's the engineer. And I think that's what my remark was, or that comment was. It's more so a tongue in cheek of like, well, everybody just knows Indians as the people who either run the gas store or like a 7-Eleven or is like the CEO of like a Microsoft. So it's just that. And then full stop, like nothing else to do with our history, our culture, our heritage, nothing like that. So that's what I was making a commentary on American culture or even the West. Like we need to be better about celebrating all people. Specifically, I wanted to say that Indians make money with no mentions. We're not just people who make money. There's a history there. And so that was more of a tongue-in-cheek sort of a, hey man, we're here too sort of thing.
Interesting. As you pursue music, how does your South Asian community of friends, relatives, family, how have they responded? Because
Hmm.
it's a little off the beaten path with respect to um, someone with an IT kind of background. So how does the community respond to your artistic ventures?
To be quite honest with you, I think it's hard for them. And I'll tell you why. I think when they hear it, they're like, dude, this sounds great. You did this, all that. And they start talking about the audio technical and the fact that I could rap and they never knew that I had it in me. But when I asked them, what did you think of the content of the song? I think it almost like flies by them. And then they have to read the lyrics and then they're kind of taken aback and then they're sitting with it and kind of ruminating with it. And then, one buddy of mine, he says, I really got uh, hit by the verse, I want God's humility, but I feel like my taste expensive. And I think that was really good for me to hear because I think that's what I kind of want to show. It's just like it's okay to struggle with these sort of things, inclinations to want success, to want money, because keep in mind, growing up as a Christian, I think I was always told a message of like the wealthy or the uber rich or the ultra successful are evil or something along the lines of that. But then I see the very uncles and aunties who are sharing that from the pulpit are very rich and well-to-do people. And this is something that I've struggled with in my body this entire time. It's like, well, I want success, but I'm being told that wanting success or showing up or being rich is not cool. Like you got to be humble. You got to steward God's money well and stuff like that. And this is this constant fight that I'm having in my body. And that's sort of what I'm even just reflecting on in the song. It's just like, I want God's humility. I would love to be humble and drive a broken up, beaten down car and but also at the same time, I would love to have a nice house, a mansion, all that. And so I'm kind of putting that into the flesh, so to speak, and people resonate with that. But it's also more of a warning, I would say. I hope that doesn't come across as strong, but I do want us as Indians and just as Asians in general, or even just people, ultimately at the end of the day, to just think more about what our life is, what our purpose is, and how it doesn't always need to be just a rat race. But we can speak more about that. But that's what my inclination was with that verse.
I feel like you're challenging your peers and your community to discern their calling and to consider there's the safe path that
Hmm.
we're assuming, but is that the right path for
Mm,
you,
yeah.
given God's gifts for that person and their history and their interests. Um, how do you see other Gen Z South Asian Christians struggling with life direction, vocation, the temptation for material success, but also the spiritual hunger? How do you see your colleagues, your friends struggling with this?
Yeah, I see the struggle is very real. I will say that Gen Z is the most I understand that I'm a Gen Z. I shouldn't be able to make the statement, but I'm noticing the trends from the reports and stuff that I'm reading that and what people are telling me that Gen Z is a very curious generation. They're asking questions and they're self-starters. And so that's something that's incredibly cool to witness and it even gives me pause. But also within the subculture of, the communities that I exist in, it's still very much a we want God, we'll tithe everything, we'll do everything properly, but we'll still do the finance job and the software engineering job. And again, I think what I'm trying to say is that isn't wrong, but I think they're kind of having God and ministry and faith and mission at a arm's length. And that's where I want to kind of press them and sort of ask them and challenge them to think about it more deeply. Because even after the conversations we've had, David, and even the conversations I've had with my friends, God or Jesus rather ends Matthew with the call to the Great Commission. He says, go unto the world and make disciples. And to me, I feel like I don't know. I feel like the spaces that I've existed in, it's been Indians have kind of seen tithe well, do the work well, and feed the people right, and host the evangelists when they come. They do all these wonderful stuff, but it's like, no, we've been called to make disciples using our life or whatever we have, and I just don't see that hunger. And I don't know if that's a conversation that we need to do for the churches, we need to have for the churches, or if that just starts at the grassroots level. But that's what I'm trying to establish with my song.
Powerful. Very, very, very powerful. As you mentioned, you have a new piece of music dropping soon. Where do you see your music going from here, and what themes do you hope to tackle next?
Yeah, great question. I think that is going to be constantly changing. But I think ideally, I would want to flush out the Indian American experience a little bit more, talk a little bit more candidly about honestly stuff like failing out of college or getting bad grades or the use of pornography in our generation, mental health as it relates to pornography, depression, um, suicidal stuff. These are all hard topics that I want to be able to talk about because these are real things that our generation faces. Specifically, I want to be able to show a little bit more of the Indian experience because I believe that there are a lot of people that are in India that don't have a voice. And I don't want to say that I'm the voice for the voiceless because that just sounds incredibly pretentious, but I want to be able to kind of showcase what an average college student in Kerala is going through or in India is going through. The crushing weight of parents' expectations for them to clear their 12th board exams. The fact that because India is oversaturated with engineers, your engineering degree is worthless, and the pain that they have from that, from all the questions that all the uncles and aunties are asking, why don't you have a job yet? Why aren't you married yet? So I think I want to be able to get to a point where I'm even able to dialogue with the Indian experience. um, I don't think I'm there yet, but I think I want to be able to get there.
Okay, I feel like you opened a lot of things there. I want to try to unpack. It's somewhat refreshing to hear how you just name it. Here's how the people I'm in touch with struggle. This is real life. They struggle with X, Y, and Z. and things like pornography and the mental health issues related to pornography. Is that because you're in America now that you've learned to be so verbally transparent with your
Mm,
basic feelings and thoughts? Or is that a Gen Z thing? So, for example, would Gen Z in India
mm,
think like you as well?
mm,
And, or would it kind of make them cringe to hear you be so blunt and honest? So, is the
mm,
kind of honest voice distinctive to like a Western kind of
mm,
bluntness, East Coast thing?
mhm,
Because I would think some of the aunties and uncles and older generation would begin cringing based
mhm,
on what all those things you were saying, because we don't talk about that in polite company.
Absolutely. I think it's a both and I also would want to add that it is my faith in Christ as well that's helped. I think, yes, definitely. I think I have noticed that in the West, specifically, people are a lot more real. And I think that is distinctive of Gen Z because I feel like you mentioned, there have been people, older people, I will say, that have been sort of, oh, we don't talk about that. Let's talk about that. That's not proper etiquette. Um, but then I also think it's my faith because Christ has helped me tremendously. And I truly say that when I was going through depressive episodes in college, my faith helped me. And I want to be able to speak that into another 18-year-old Akshay's life who's going through college as an international student for the first time, not knowing if he's going to make grades that semester and if he's going to be deported back to wherever he goes with nothing in his hand to show for. And I want to be able to speak to that experience and yeah, it might come across as cringy to some, but if I'm able to just speak to an Akshay that's going through that, and if I'm able to just be vulnerable and ultimately point up to God and say that not you're just keep going, I think to me that's successful. And yeah, that's ultimately what I want to do is uplift. And so upliftment needs can only happen when you're vulnerable and you open up and you kind of take the shame away because you have to first start healing. So, yeah.
Say a little more on the cost for not being vulnerable and honest and vocal.
Yeah, I think let's even take the example of pornography, right? Like, we know it's a thing. We know, like, the numbers don't lie. We have so much statistics that show that evangelicals struggle with pornography use. We know that we can make a basic assumption that evangelicals probably don't like that they use pornography. We know that Christians that use pornography probably feel some type of way about it. And I believe that what's helped with me unpack when I've struggled in seasons of watching that sort of content, truth be told, completely, David, is sharing with a brother, sharing with a pastor, sharing with a therapist. Hey, I'm really struggling with this. Hey, I feel like I'm a bad Christian. Hey, I feel like I'm not a Christian at all. Hey, I feel like I'm XYZ. And then them saying, it's okay. I've been there too, or you're not alone. Let's try to help. Let's try to fix this. That's how you start. And that starts with vulnerability, coming as you are to the table and just admitting that it's okay to, again, this is cliche. You probably heard this on multiple, like so many places, but it's okay to not be okay. Like, you don't have to have everything figured out. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to act holier than thou. Yes, I was brought up in a Christian household, but that doesn't mean I didn't have temptations, that I didn't fall into, sin patterns. But I don't want to let that not bring me to the table because ultimately I want to conquer it. And I believe being able to conquer it is by bringing it to the table, by acknowledging that I need help. Because that is what we do when we come to God, is we acknowledge in all humility, God, I need your help. And it starts with coming to him and opening up. And I think that's what we all need to do. And I think I would want to be able to use my music as a channel for that. It's like, it's okay to open up. I'm opening up. Here it is in the music.
Pope Francis passed recently. I've been thinking about our Roman Catholic uh, brothers and sisters. I think I've been reflecting on certain distinctive Roman Catholic spiritual practices, such as confession,
Hmm. Hmm.
confession of sin to another human being before the ears of God, laying bare our soul,
Hmm.
our deepest fears and joys and pains and sufferings and desires. That's what you've described.
Mm.
You've described uh, how humans were not designed to carry our burdens alone.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
when we carry our burdens alone, problems happen.
Right. Absolutely.
And to tie it back to music, and I think about, you mentioned therapy, and I think therapy is a form of secular, I don't know, it's a form of confession as well,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
right? Like you're having these vulnerable conversations with another human being, and if you're a Christian, before the ears of God,
Hmm.
to help process these difficult things. And by virtue of a shared conversation, that therapist is helping to bear some of those burdens. And we do this in church with pastors who exercise pastoral care. We do this in small group and prayer groups. There are many spiritual Christian practices. Confession could be broadly the
Mm.
category we use. But to tie it back to your music, it sounds like your music are forms of your personal confessions.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I love that you said that because I was just thinking about that this week. I think ultimately that's what it is. It's like what's that one time I think you said that to me. It's like almost like a mirror. You're reflecting and you're kind of like chewing through these things together. And I think that's what it is. I think my music is like a confessional diary that I'm just processing these things with you as a 20-something-year-old kid from Qatar who's now in the East Coast who loves hip hop but loves God too and is Indian and has all these feelings about Indians and success and money and computer science and what does that look like? And so yeah, it's absolutely confessional and I think it's helped because I know that my friends have said, dude, I was just struggling with that. It's so funny that you mentioned that Benz though, because yeah, I admit that God is good, but like, is he gonna pay for rent? Just me being up here all Christian like, is he just gonna pay for rent? Yeah, I admit that God is great, but like, let's be honest. Take a look at that Benz. Take a look at that Ferrari. Take a look at that six-figure job. And I think that's what that's what I think sometimes our mentalities can be. We have God and we pocket him in the back of our head because we have bills to pay. And that's a very real concern because the other extreme of that is to say, no, 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 you should never think about bills. You should never think you should be all holy and Christ-like and all the time. It's like, well, no, that's not going to work, especially with the economy we're in. Like, we need to be able to be good stewards of the money and also think about our bills and all these things. And I think let's struggle with that and let's struggle well. And I think I hope my music can do that.
I want to give you the last word. Is there anything you want to say to our listeners who are wrestling with questions of faith, career, or cultural expectations?
Oh, that's a loaded question. Uh, I think for me, what's really helped is taking a lot of time in isolation and being very reflective. I think, and what I mean by that is, um, if you're really struggling with something, it's okay to sit and process that by yourself. If you believe in God, with God, weep over it, cry over it, fight over it with God. And what I did was really journal that. My method of journaling was music. But what I would recommend to anybody going through this is those scars that you might be having, those questions that you might be having is absolutely beautiful. And I hope that once you've come out of this sort of tunnel, that you share your experiences and make note of these struggles because somebody else is almost always going through those same questions. And we could use your opinions, what you did, what you went through, because somebody else could learn from that.
Amen. That's a great word to end on, Akshay. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me, sharing from your experiences and your insights and your passions. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, David. And I'm really excited about the work that you guys are doing at CAAC, and I'll be continuing praying for you guys, and I hope that you guys be used for God's glory and to be able to speak more into the Asian experience here in America.